There's only one career in Kansas City that stands up to the test right now, and that's Travis Kelce. Where is it? Is it playoffs? Is it career moments? What is it that he's stretching for right now this season and a three-peat run? Today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. We are back, and it's all about Travis Kelce today. We're brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply, as they do to everything. This is Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. He's going to get you straightened out on stats, on cap, on finances, the way the league runs, and everything else that you need to know. Check it out on Chiefs Corner. You can find me at RGR Football, at NFL 33. You're going to see a piece from me this week on the current situations across the league at the quarterback spot and what sets up franchises for wins and losses. In terms of getting back onto the athleticism, you can always check it out at rogueapc.com, and anywhere that you can get that information is a big plus. Check us out. We're here 5 days a week for you, as everyone is on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team for free all the time. Here on YouTube, make sure you like, sub, get on the Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on any audio platform you like that's free. You will find us there. And if you want that much more, get on the text line at 816-357-8781. We're going to talk about playoff glory that is Travis Kelce, not just the celebrations, but that's part of it. Career moments that set him apart from his contemporaries and even some historical figures. But we have to start right now where he is at this age, coming off a season where he had an injury. His career to this point, where do we stand, Chris? It's Hall of Fame or bust. Not much of a decision on my personal account.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it's not even close. I don't think that there's anybody else that would deserve to be a first ballot Hall of Famer that's playing tight end right now, at least with their career to this point. And you look at guys like Gronkowski, who he'll be compared to, and Tony Gonzalez, who he'll be compared to. And statistically speaking, in most cases, he is above both of those guys. Gonzalez still has more yards total, but he also played several more seasons. Let's see, he played, 17 seasons, I'm sorry. Kelsey has played a total of, 10, 11? So a little bit difference there, but Kelsey's already starting to get close to catching Tony Gonzalez. We'll see whether or not he can get there, depending on how long he decides he wants to play.
I got my fingers crossed. I think that's the pinnacle. There's an argument to be made about how you get there, but getting there is the pinnacle, I think, that historically would be the argument in the Hall of Fame voting room. Our old friend Therese Paylor used to be in that room and make a lot of arguments. I think it comes down to the scope of your career and who you played with. Tony Gonzalez certainly had some good quarterbacks, had some years where it was pretty rough. And so I think that stacking of yards is something that I still feel that Travis Kelce should be pushing for. Do you?
Yeah, no, I absolutely think he should. Let's see, Tony Gonzalez has 15,127 yards. Currently in Travis Kelce's career, he's at 11,328. So he's about 4,000 yards off. That's not too bad, considering the difference in games. Kelce has played in 159 games. Tony Gonzalez played in 270 games.
That's just monstrous. And I think we have to acknowledge that. And it does not fade me, folks, that we're talking about two Chiefs tight ends. Let's enjoy that fact for a second before we move on to what is maybe the prime competition for comparison to Travis Kelce. And nice to see you guys in the chat. Shout out to Brendan. Nice to see you twice tonight. When you take a look at who needs to be in this conversation, how many other names come into it for you?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think you have to look back in history. I mean, Kellen Winslow was a fantastic tight end. Obviously, we've already talked about Tony Gonzalez. Antonio Gates was a fantastic tight end. There's several names out there that I think you have to think about when you start looking at the tight end room. But when it comes down to it, go back and look at, statistically speaking, Kelsey is only behind Gronkowski in one metric, and that's yards per game. A little bit of a different scenario, but Gronkowski also didn't have near the career yardage because he didn't play near as long. He dealt with injury his entire career. He was a completely different type of tight end. more of a bruising type tight end that would block a lot, kind of like George Kittle in a way, but a little bit more effective. Funny enough, Kittle looked like he was going to be in a position to challenge Travis Kelce, but that's kind of fallen off in the past couple of years as well.
It really has. It is now to this point where I would argue there is no contemporary to Travis Kelce. He is one of one in the league currently. I don't see anybody that's in danger of having pushing him for any kind of accolades at this point, especially any career-oriented ones. But it all comes down to whether he can stay healthy this season or not, and the following season, depending on if he can hit these major milestones. But I think he is the most unique athlete at the position in this league, and I think he's the only one that can really be in consideration for anything outside of a standard season at this point.
Well, and it's interesting because you go back and you look at Travis Kelce and you look at what he's done in his career. He missed his entire first season. Basically, he played one game, just a couple snaps, got hurt, missed that entire year. But he has still had 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Should have had an 8th straight, but he decided to sit out. He actually decided that it was more important for him to be healthy for the playoffs and to get better in the playoffs. And look at what that actually did when you start looking at what he was able to do against Baltimore. If he plays week 17 to go try to get his 1,000 yards in 2023, do you think he's as healthy and he looks as spry as he did in that game against Baltimore? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And it's again, we have to keep in mind that there's some frailty there. Like one injury early in the season set him up to have to get to that point. But these next couple of years are going to be key to where his career goes. What does that mean? What are the standout moments? That's what we're getting to for Travis Kelce next here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Playoffs are in the air, both in the NBA and the NHL, but the NBA is starting to really get fired up. If you want to get in all the action, there is a way that you can play a bigger role. All these events come down to getting the right spot in the right venue at the right time. You can browse all the upcoming NBA playoff and finals games and the high-profile events that you're looking for right on the Gametime app. You can be specific about where you want to sit. You can take a look before you even have to make a purchase, and you can get last-minute ticket deals all the time, up to 60% off of sports, concerts, comedy, theater, anything that you're looking for. It's all in pricing, no surprises, and you can look at that seat before you even consider pressing the button. It's all at Gametime. You want to take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets or any playoff or any event, you can do it at the Gametime app by downloading the app, creating your account, and using our code LOCKEDONNFL. It's going to get you $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply, but all you have to do is create an account, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $20 off of your first purchase. It's at Gametime. It's last-minute tickets, it's lowest prices, and it's guaranteed. There are not many guarantees in this world, but getting 24/7 coverage on Locked On Sports Today is one of them. It's here on YouTube as well as Amazon Fire TV. That is guaranteed as well. Check that out. We always get to this point where it's so subjective about what makes a career stand out to a given individual. There are plenty of moments to go along. As you said, 7,000-yard seasons. There's plenty of moments in between there. But what's the career moment that stands out to you?
Really quick, because I looked, Tony Gonzalez has 4,000-yard seasons, and he didn't do any of them back-to-back. And he played 17 years. Career moments, honestly, and this is kind of funny because it wasn't a playoff moment. It wasn't really even a very important game. But one of the Travis Kelce moments that I'll always remember is his catch in Cleveland, where he went up and skied over one of the DBs to go get the ball from Mahomes. And the reason that's a career moment for me is because he was playing in Cleveland. He was absolutely fired up for that game. And that was a huge catch and a huge situation for him personally. So to me, that made a career moment in my mind.
That is absolutely fair. The one that stands out to me is a little bit more jaded. And I know we need to talk about Super Bowl seasons and what his contribution is to that. But I go back to a divisional playoff game that we'll talk about coming up. it's set up and it was kind of the culmination of the 2018 season, which for me was I know it's calling a season a career moment is a little bit cheating, but it was how he went about it week after week after week. He racked up some of the most impressive single season statistics ever. And it really set him, in my mind, apart from everybody else. There was the Kittle discussion. But in 2018, he ended with 103 receptions. I mean, this is wide receiver territory, 1,336 yards. And gets 6th overall in receiving touchdowns with 10, which was a career high. At that point, you're squarely in the, hey, he's not a tight end anymore conversation. And I think that as we go through and we get closer to the end, and certainly when the Hall of Fame discussion begins, it's going to become an aspect of the discussion because he at that point forward, he's never been a classic tight end since then, in my opinion.
And you know the crazy thing? 2 years later, he beat those stats. That's what's crazy to me. Like, you go talk about 1336. I believe that was, I would have to go back and look, but I believe at the time that was the number one in yardage for tight ends ever in a career. I think Kittle passed it maybe the next year, but then Kelsey comes back the next year in 2020, has 105 receptions, 1,416 yards, and 11 touchdowns. I mean, and 2 years later, he eclipsed 1338 or 1336 again in 2022. So it looks like he really likes even years. So he should be in for a good year in 2024. Really quick.
Hey,
another career moment to me. What was that? We hope. Yeah.
I like the way you're thinking. Let's set that up.
Yeah. Another career moment for me when it comes to Kelsey. And it was the first Super Bowl they won. And he catches the touchdown and he doesn't even he celebrates, but he throws the ball. He is running toward the sideline. He is just so fired up. And you just saw the entire team. And I believe that's after Wasp. If I remember correctly, that was the touchdown. Like, Tyreek Hill got the ball close down to the end zone. And a couple plays later, Travis Kelce scores the touchdown. And I believe that was right after Wasp. That play was career defining because it just, you saw the passion, you saw everything coming, and then you saw him leading the team going forward from then on out. And he has continued to be a leader. And he stepped forward in that year when they won the Super Bowl, and he has continued to be that guy ever since.
Yeah. It comes in, and it's the flip side for me because there's one play that I'm going to break down on RGR. This conversation just sealed it for me. Because there's one play that really stands out to me that isn't a career-defining moment, but could have been. That flip to Kadarius Toney against the Bills that never actually happened. That would have been just that much more. We know he was a high school quarterback. We understand all that. But to make those kinds of heads-up plays, there's the one that went to the running back a few years ago. Another,
West, I believe.
Miraculous type play. Yeah.
Oh, no, it was Sean McCoy. It was McCoy. I apologize. Yeah.
I was shady. You're right. But that kind of ad-lib versatility, that ability to take his game up another level in what is very few ways once you're a tight end. If you're not a yak monster, what else are you going to do? He's going to continue to do this. And now with more guys that are good at receiving pitches, we'll talk about some of this coming up. I don't think that's over.
No, I agree. I don't think it's over. But the crazy thing about that is you talk about that type of play, and it's something that you don't see across the NFL. There's another thing that you don't see across the NFL, and you pointed it out about him being an ex-quarterback. He is actually pointing at times to receivers to throw the ball to. He knows where the ball needs to be going. He's trying to help Mahomes. If Mahomes is looking at him, throw it over there. Don't throw it to me. Throw it over there. He's done that multiple times now. That is amazing to watch a football player be able to be that locked in and know what's going on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a unique situation that we are, again, lucky to watch this era of Chiefs football. But it all comes down to glory and what you do in the playoffs. What stands out about Travis Kelce's career to this point in the playoffs? That's coming up next here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's winner take all time in the NBA and in the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you the shot to bring home a huge win all your own. Right now, the Florida Panthers are scheduled for tomorrow night. They're looking at a minus 76 on the money line. That is apt, I think, for trying to get in the action. You can do that right now as a new user. Right now, new customers are getting $150 back in bonus bets for winning a $5 bet of any kind. That's $150 back for winning a $5 bet, whether it's a spread or a money line or a prop or anything that you're looking for. You can do it all at FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can do it and make every single playoff shot count. Do that at FanDuel.com/lockedon, America's #1 sportsbook. Now make sure you are tied up for 24/7 coverage at Locked On Sports today. It is everything that you're looking for all the time, whether you're up late or out early. Whatever you got, it's here on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today, or Amazon Fire. Now, playoff glory is something that comes, I think, probably for most players in the form of a unique performance or, a time where you were the go-to guy that got it done. Travis Kelce, I don't think can be measured that way because, as you were just hinting at, he's a force multiplier on the field. He's had very diverse sets of wide receivers that he plays with when he's out in these patterns from Super Bowl to Super Bowl to Super Bowl. And so it's not an average comparison, I don't think, for what a guy could stand out with. I think we have to take into account that he is more than just a tight end, more than a split wideout at this point. He's a guy that makes the whole offense sing. And when that offense seems to have been in this run of championships, I don't know if there's a single way to compare it. Do you have one?
I don't know that I have a great way to compare it, but I would say he's almost like a second QB on the field in some regards. I'm not, and I don't mean that, and he's going to throw the ball, although he has thrown the ball and it hasn't been pretty. But the way he thinks, the way he does things, and the way he's able to help his teammates on the field, it's almost like having. I mean, you talk about Mahomes, and everybody says that he's like having a coach on the field. Kelsey is as well, to an extent, maybe not to the extent that Patrick is. But he knows the offense. He knows where he's supposed to be. He knows. Look at what he did against Buffalo in the 13-second game. That play was all on Kelce. You talk about playoff glory. His decision, hey, they're playing me this way. If they're playing me that way again, I'm going to run this route. I'm not going to do what the play call says.
Right.
Andy Reid's not pissed at him after the game because he knows Kelce is seeing exactly what's on the field, what's going on. And he understands what he's supposed to be doing. And obviously he was able to help them win the game, gave Butker a chance to kick that field goal, and then caught the TD in overtime. You talk about playoff glory. That's probably very, very high up there. But I have to say, watching him against Baltimore this year, when everybody talked about how Kyle Hamilton has shut down tight ends and shut down guys, and then just watching him and some of the catches he was able to make, and his stats weren't great. I'm not saying they were bad, but they weren't great. But if you go back and watch some of the catches he had, just the ability to get open and catch the ball in those scenarios was a fantastic play on his part. And also kudos to Mahomes for throwing it, but all of it just kind of played into it. Fun to watch.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. To tie into that, like you said, the stats aren't always what it's all about. And that ties me into what stands out to me. Great playoff performance against the Colts the year before all this Super Bowl stuff happened, right? Had 108 yards, 7 receptions that day, get a nice, clean, double-digit victory, and you're ready to roll. That was the last time that he had to be that guy, in my opinion, because you didn't have enough else in support. And it turned out the very next week, that's exactly what happened as the Patriots were able to take him away. Belichick, with his custom way to address Travis Kelce, ended up with 3 receptions for 23 yards. And the rest of the team wasn't able to put it together to get that W. They lost in overtime. I think that, for me, is the delineation point of not just the glory that he got, but the glory that he's seeking, that he has to be able to be that all-around guy, not the one that's producing it over and over, because that's the key to having too narrow of an offense to win championships, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see what he continues to do. You start talking about playoff glory. The one thing that he is trailing, where I think it actually kind of matters to an extent, although I still think he's the best tight end to ever play, he trails Gronk by 1 touchdown, or by 1 Super Bowl. So
yeah,
they go 3-peat. He would tie Gronk for most Super Bowl victories by a tight end. they're different players. You can't really compare the two. It's just that's the way it really is they're completely different players. But you look at what Kelsey has done over the last 8-9 years. Basically 1,000-yard season in a season where he didn't play 2 games this past year. He didn't get to 1,000 yards, but he was basically there. He would have been there had he played week 1 or week 18. He would have gotten 1,000 yards guaranteed. But he didn't play week 18 because he was selfless and said, I don't care about that. I care about my team. I care about, chasing playoff glory. I care about chasing Super Bowls. That's what I really want. I don't care about that 1,000-yard season.
Well, and I think we're going to see that continue as they make this run in a 3-peat, and that's going to be all the glory that they need. If they can get that done,
but
everything else is gravy.
Let me ask this, and I know you and I have talked about this a little bit, but the thing that always drives me crazy when it comes to Travis Kelce is if you go back and watch him when he was younger and watch how he played when he was younger and watch how it wasn't really attitude, but it was his demeanor, the way he carried himself, the way he was on the field, his jokester. I guess it kind of was attitude, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just he wasn't the guy he is now. But you watch him since Mahomes has been here, and really even still a little bit with Alex Smith early on, he grew as a player. He grew to a point where he was a leader on this team, and he is a reason that they continue to have the offense they do, not just because of the player he is, but because of the leader he is. He'll get in people's faces. He will go out there and do whatever he needs to do. And it's not about him. It's about his team. That's the thing that I've loved watching with him the most is, it's great to watch all the accolades that he gets and his statistics and all of that. But to watch where he started to where he is now and knowing that he is seen as one of the best or one of the biggest leaders on this team. And you go back to the playoffs last year, he gets an argument with Reed on the sideline. Everybody is all up in arms. You can't do that. And he admits you can't do that as a player. But Andy Reid didn't care. Yeah. Andy Reid knows Kelsey. That's a relationship they have. It's awesome to see that.
It is, and it's unique. I think in the end, this 3-peat is going to be the culmination. If they fall short, they fall short. But just being in position to run for it sets them apart already. If they're able to accomplish that, it'll be historic in so many ways that we won't even be able to keep track of it. But none more so than Travis Kelce, who sees where his career has to end eventually, especially after his brother just going through it. So we'd like to know, what are your career moments? What are your playoff glory pieces for Travis Kelce? What are the things you remember the most? Leave them in the comments. Leave them on the iTunes reviews. I think it's Apple Podcasts now, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. We appreciate you spending your time with us. We're going to have a great week. A lot of OTA action going on. We'll have breakdowns for you as soon as we get reports. We thank you for spending your time with us today. Enjoy yourselves. Welcome to another week of the offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we'll be back with you tomorrow